You know what's interesting? I was having coffee with a friend last week. He's 47, just got out of a long marriage, and he's terrified of getting back into dating. He kept saying, I'm too old for this. Women want younger guys. I've missed my window. And I just looked at him and said, man, you have no idea how wrong you are. Because here's the truth that nobody talks about. While younger guys are out there flexing on Instagram, obsessing over their appearance, and trying way too hard to impress women, older men have access to something far more powerful. Something that doesn't come from a gym membership or a nice car. It's a quiet kind of magnetism. The kind that comes from experience, from surviving some storms, from knowing who you are and not apologizing for it. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius didn't become one of history's most respected leaders because he was young and flashy. He earned respect through his character, his composure, his depth, and those qualities. They're exactly what make older men incredibly attractive to women who've matured past the superficial stuff. Today, I want to share 3 specific habits that embody this stoic masculinity. Not tricks or tactics, but genuine ways of being that become more natural as you age. And if you're willing to cultivate these consciously, you'll find that getting older isn't a disadvantage in attraction. It's actually your secret weapon. Let's get into it. Habit number 1, emotional steadiness in chaos. The first habit is something I call emotional steadiness. And honestly, this is where older men have a massive advantage that most don't even realize they're sitting on. Think about the average guy in his 20s. Something goes wrong at work. His boss criticizes him and he's spiraling for 3 days. His girlfriend doesn't text back for 2 hours and he's panicking, crafting the perfect follow-up message, checking his phone every 30 seconds. Everything feels like a crisis because he hasn't lived through enough actual crises to know the difference. But you, if you're over 40, you've been through some stuff. You've lost jobs and found new ones. You've had relationships end and survived. You've faced financial pressure, health scares, family drama. You've seen problems that felt catastrophic at the time become distant memories. And that experience creates something women find incredibly attractive: the ability to stay calm when things get turbulent. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He was literally running an empire that was falling apart, dealing with plagues and wars and political betrayals. And in the middle of all that chaos, he maintained his composure. That's the habit you need to cultivate. Not pretending problems don't exist, but refusing to let external chaos destroy your internal peace. I'll give you a real example. Last year, I was working on a project that completely fell apart. 6 months of work, gone. And I was having dinner with someone I'd been seeing, and she asked how my day was. I could have unloaded all my stress, complained about how unfair everything was, let my frustration dominate the evening. Instead, I just said, "Had a setback with a project. It's frustrating, but I'll figure it out. How was your day?" She told me later that moment shifted how she saw me. Not because I pretended everything was fine, but because I didn't let a problem consume me. I acknowledged it and moved on. That's emotional steadiness, and women notice it immediately because most men don't have it. When you can stay grounded while she's stressed, when you can be the calm presence in the middle of her storm, when you don't overreact to every little bump in the road, you become incredibly valuable. Not because you're solving all her problems, but because you're demonstrating that problems don't control you. This isn't about being emotionless or cold. It's about being like a tree in a storm. You bend, you acknowledge the wind, but you don't uproot. Your foundation stays solid. Habit number 2, comfortable silence and presence. 7:15. The second habit is something that seems simple, but actually requires a lot of inner work. It's the ability to be comfortable in silence and genuinely present in moments. Younger guys are terrified of silence. They fill every gap in conversation with noise. They're constantly entertaining, performing, trying to be interesting. They pull out their phones the second there's a lull. They need constant stimulation, constant validation, constant distraction. But here's what the Stoics understood. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." There's profound wisdom in being comfortable with quiet. I remember being in my 20s and feeling like I had to constantly talk on dates, keep the energy up, make sure the conversation never died. It was exhausting, and honestly, it was insecure. I was afraid that if I stopped performing, she'd lose interest. Now, some of my best moments with women happen in complete silence. Driving somewhere and just enjoying the music. Sitting on a couch reading while she's doing her own thing. Walking through a park without feeling the need to fill the air with commentary. That comfort with silence communicates something powerful. It says, I don't need to perform for your approval. I'm secure enough in myself that I can just exist alongside music. I'm secure enough in myself that I can just exist alongside you. And presence, real presence, is connected to this. When you're talking with her, are you actually listening? Or are you half% thinking about what you're going to say next? Checking your watch, letting your mind wander. Women can tell the difference. They can feel when you're genuinely there versus when you're just going through the motions. I had a conversation with a woman recently who told me about a difficult situation with her family, and I just listened. I didn't try to fix it. I didn't offer advice unless she asked. I didn't change the subject to something about me. I just stayed present with her in that moment. Afterwards, she said, "Thank you for actually hearing me. Most people just wait for their turn to talk." That's the power of presence. And it's a habit you develop by consciously practicing it. Let moments breathe instead of rushing to fill them. Put your phone away. Make eye contact. Listen to understand, not to respond. Let moments breathe instead of rushing to fill them. The Stoics practiced something called negative visualization, where they'd imagine losing the things they valued to appreciate them more fully in the type of present. You can do a simpler version of this. When you're with someone you care about, occasionally remind yourself that this moment is temporary. That makes you more present in it. This habit makes you different from 90% of men she's ever met, because most men are never really there. They're distracted, scattered, always half somewhere else. You being fully present, comfortable in silence, genuinely listening, that's magnetic. Habit number 3, purposeful living beyond the relationship. 1245. The third habit is the most important. And honestly, it's the foundation that makes everything else work. It's living with purpose that exists independently of any relationship. Here's where a lot of older men screw this up. They've spent 20 or 30 years building a career, raising kids, being married, and then suddenly they're single again. And they make their entire focus finding a new relationship to fill the void. They become desperate, needy. They make the woman they're dating their entire world because they don't have anything else going on. That's repulsive to high-value women, not because they don't want to be important to you, but because they don't want to be your only source of meaning. The Stoics were obsessed with this idea of living according to your principles, your virtues, your purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Notice he didn't say to be loved or to be validated by someone else. He said to love, active, not passive. Your purpose isn't to receive, it's to give, to create, to contribute. As an older man, you should have developed or be developing a life that's genuinely compelling, not for women, for yourself. Maybe you're building a business or mastering a craft. Maybe you're mentoring younger men or contributing to your community. Maybe you're writing, creating art, traveling, learning languages. Maybe you're deepening your relationship with your kids or grandkids. Whatever it is, you need something that matters to you beyond romantic relationships. I know a guy who's 52. He teaches woodworking classes on weekends, volunteers at a youth center, and he's learning to speak Italian because he's planning a trip to Italy next year. When he talks about his life, it's full, rich, interesting. She's being invited to join something already complete. Compare that to another guy I know who's about the same age. Music. Nice guy, but literally all he talks about is how lonely he is, how much he wants a relationship, how dating is so hard. Women are drawn to him not because he's chasing them, but because he's building something worth being part of. His life has gravity. She's not being asked to complete him. She's being invited to join something already complete. Compare that to another guy I know who's about the same age. Nice guy, but literally all he talks about is how lonely he is, how much he wants a relationship, how dating is so hard. His entire energy is focused on what he's missing instead of what he's building. Guess which one has women interested? This is Stoicism at its core. You focus on what you control. You can't control whether someone loves you. You can't control whether a relationship works out, but you can control whether you're living a life of purpose, virtue, and meaning. So there you have it. 3 habits rooted in Stoic philosophy that make older men genuinely attractive. Emotional steadiness, the ability to stay calm when chaos surrounds you. And paradoxically, when you stop making relationships your primary goal and start making your character and contribution your primary goal, relationships become easier because you're no longer desperate. You're not interviewing her for the position of person who completes me. You're simply seeing if she's compatible with the life you're already building. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." When your life is full of purpose, you're rich. You're not coming from scarcity, and that abundance is incredibly attractive. Conclusion 18. So there you have it. 3 habits rooted in Stoic philosophy that make older men genuinely attractive. Emotional steadiness, the ability to stay calm when chaos surrounds you. Comfortable silence and presence, being fully there instead of constantly performing. You've got something far more rare and far more valuable. Depth, composure, purpose. Don't waste it by trying to compete with 25-year-olds on their terms. Play your own game. Build your citadel. Live with intention. The right woman won't just appreciate that. She'll be drawn to it like a magnet. If this resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe. Share this with another man who might need to hear it. And drop a comment telling me which of these 3 habits you're working on developing. Thanks for watching. Now, get out there and build something worth being part of. 2030.